If you work from home, there's a good chance you're underclaiming your tax deductions. In this video, I'll show you the shortcut most people use, why it can leave money on the table, and how to work out the actual cost method step by step so your claim is built on logic and records. So let's start with the shortcut most people stop at. I'll run the fixed rate first so you can see why it already looks decent. Then I'll show you the method that can push the deduction higher if your numbers support it. Here's the shortcut. For the current income year, the fixed rate is 70 cents per work hour performed at home. In this example, let's say I worked 1,248 hours from home, 3 days a week from home, 8 hours a day. At 70 cents, it gives me a tax deduction of $874. Add depreciation of about $600, and the total lands at roughly $1,474 per year. For a lot of people, that already sounds pretty solid. And this is the bit most people miss. You do not need a dedicated home office to use actual cost method. But if you do have one, that's where this method can really start to pull away from the fixed rate method. Quick distinction, you don't need a separate room to claim either method. Fixed rate is simple, hours multiplied by 70 cents. Actual cost can still work without a dedicated office, but then you're mostly limited to the extra costs directly tied to your work. If you do have a dedicated workspace, that's when heating, cooling, lighting, cleaning, and floor space apportionment can really start to move the needle. The office is 12 square meters in a 120 square meter home, so that's 10% of the floor area. Annual bills are $1,800 for electricity, $900 for internet, $600 for a mobile phone plan, and $200 for stationery. On top of that, there's a desktop, a laptop, 2 monitors, a printer, a lamp, and a split system air conditioner running on work days. Let's start with device electricity, because this is one of those numbers almost nobody calculates. For each item, estimate the wattage, multiply it by the hours used at home for work, convert it to kilowatt hours, then apply your electricity rate. Typical wattages might be around 150 watts for a desktop, 50 for a laptop, 30 per monitor, 50 for a printer, 10 for a lamp, and 5 for a phone charger. It doesn't sound like much item by item, but over a full year it adds up fast. Now for the big one, heating and cooling. Reverse cycle units are advertised by output, not by the electricity they draw. To estimate the power used, divide the output by the COP. This gives you a more realistic estimate of the electricity cost linked to working from home. A 7 kilowatt system times 6 hours times 156 days a year equals 6,552 kilowatt hours output divided by a COP of 3.5 equals 1,872 kilowatt electrical input times the electricity rate of 35 cents per kilowatt hour equals $655. For a lot of people, this is the number that changes the result. Lighting and shared heating are where you need to be sensible. If you're estimating part of a household bill, the goal is a method you can explain, apply consistently, and back up with records. That's what gives the calculation weight. You need to be careful that you're not claiming for any shared heating, lighting, or cooling. Next up, internet and phone. These have to be split between work and private use. And that split needs to be based on something reasonable, like usage patterns, diary records, or another method you can support. In this example, the internet claim works out at roughly 49% work use, and for the phone I'm using a conservative 30% work-related share. Again, small on their own, but they keep building. Then there's depreciation. This applies under either method. Some items costing $300 or less may be immediately deductible if you meet the ATO conditions, while more expensive items are usually claimed over time as a decline in value. In this example, depreciation adds roughly $600. Now, if you've got solar at home, a lot of people oversimplify it. A low net power bill doesn't automatically mean your work-related electricity use was low. If feed-in credits are reducing the bill, you need to think carefully about whether a simple percentage of the net amount really reflects the extra cost of working from home. A better approach is to calculate the work-related consumption directly. Device kilowatt hours, heating or cooling use, lighting, then apply the relevant electricity rate from your bill. The key is that your method should be reasonable, consistent, and supported by records. Use the actual additional costs, apportion them fairly, and keep the evidence behind the calculation. Now for the payoff. The fixed rate gives us roughly $1,474, including depreciation. Once we add up the actual running costs and depreciation, the actual cost method comes out at about $2,245. That is, the actual running costs of $1,645, depreciation of $600. That's about $771 extra that you can claim, not from a loophole, not from pushing it, just from doing the maths properly instead of stopping at the shortcut. This is the trade-off. If you want to use actual costs, your records matter. Keep your work from home hours, bills, receipts, asset costs, and any notes or diary records you use to work out the work-related percentage. Better records mean a stronger claim. So here's the bottom line. You don't need a dedicated home office to claim either method. Fixed rate is the simple one, just hours times the rate. Actual costs can still work without a separate room, but you're mostly limited to the extra cost directly tied to your work. If you do have a dedicated workspace, that's where heating, cooling, lighting, cleaning, and floor space apportionment can make actual costs a lot more powerful. If you want the exact workbook I used with the formulas, logic, and references already laid out, you can grab it through the link in the description below. And if you want to keep learning how to legally maximize your tax deductions, watch the video on screen right now. I'll see you in the next one.